Hello and welcome to In the Court of the Wenton Knave. We're doing King Crimson, We're Not Worthy, but we're doing lots of it. Not generally downloads, but we are doing the Collectors Club, which makes a substantial journey through the Court of the Crimson King. And today we're doing their second studio album, In the Wake of the Poseidon. The band has fractured. The band has split up. Michael Giles and Ian MacDonald left. I get the impression Ian MacDonald left more or in less nice circumstances, because he's not involved with this at all, which I think he says he regrets. Michael Giles stayed on to do the album. Greg Lake had met Keith Emerson, but I think nothing was set in stone and was still around for the making of this album. Apparently just didn't come in one day. He just went off to do ELP. They auditioned some other singers, and it was around this time that Elton John auditioned. Apparently, without Fripp's approval, this was someone from EG decided they were going to audition Elton John, which sounds a ridiculous name, but when you didn't know who he was, I suppose, and in those days things were less pigeonholed. Obviously, that a band was a band, and you could play with anyone, play any style of music, and a festival would feature lots of different styles of music. And like now, you have to have a metal festival, a pop festival, and nothing else. Fripp's response to Elton John auditioning is quite funny. He says, "Well, I listened to his album, and the album was poor, so I cancelled the sessions." That was really funny. There is a suggestion. I mean, obviously these things get thrown out of proportion, but that Fripp suggested FELP. That what about if King Crimson doesn't continue? What about if Fripp plays with ELP? Maybe he wasn't that serious. I mean, it's easy to blow things like that out of proportion. I can't see how that would have worked. I mean, Keith Emerson didn't want to play with a guitarist anyway. But yeah, so Lake did do the vocals on this album though, mostly, and he got the band's PA as payment, although he didn't seem to finish, which might be part of the problem, but we'll talk about that in a bit. I'm very glad that Michael Giles did the drums, because the drums on this are fantastic, and it's much better recording quality than In the Court, and that helps the album tremendously. It is a much weaker album than In the Court. It does not stand up to In the Court, and the criticism of it is that it is basically In the Court too. It's structured exactly the same. Peter Giles did the bass, actually, and I think the reason for that was that Peter Giles was a better bass player, and it would have been easier to bring him in and he could just do the songs. Whereas with Greg Lake, you'd have to teach him the notes one by one. With Peter Giles, you could just give him the sheet music and just play that, go on, it's this tempo, and There was possibly a bit of a reconciliation there, and a possible guilt about, because Peter Giles did a lot of the legwork for Giles and Fripp. He was the one trying to get record deals and trying to get gigs and things like that, and did all that legwork for nothing. And then of course, because he didn't want to do King Crimson, that was the end of him, so he was brought back to do this, so that was cool. I think he was offered the bass position but turned it down because he saw in the end it was the same thing would happen. He would have a disagreement with Fripp about the direction, and that was the way it would go. He was now a programmer, interestingly, like Peter Sinfield, so obviously there's a programmer thing with King Crimson. Maybe programmers generally like King Crimson. There are other band members on here, most significantly Keith Tippett, not to be confused with Keith Emerson, very different player. However, most importantly I think was the discovery of Mel Collins from a band called Circus, as it happens. He's only on the first two songs I think, but thankfully was welcomed back. Fantastic sax player, a suitable replacement in terms of playing to Ian MacDonald, I think. I think he's as good. Sometimes I prefer him to Ian MacDonald, sometimes I think, well, Ian MacDonald's great, and fantastic sax player. One thing they did record at this point was Groon, which was a Fripp thing, which kind of a sort of jazzy, heavy thing that goes into an improvisation. Actually performed by Giles and Fripp, because it's just guitar, bass and drums. Apparently nicked from something by John McLaughlin, and that might be why it wasn't included on the album. I think it should have been included on the album personally. No Mantra, no Travel Weary Capricorn as well, which they had and didn't use. I wonder why. Possibly because if Greg Lake had disappeared, they weren't able to record Travel Weary Capricorn. Maybe. I don't know. So in the end we got Mars But Longer, which I'll talk about in a bit. So what they did, they called Gordon Haskell, because Fripp's old childhood friend Gordon Haskell, would you come and sing on this song? I don't know whether he said no at this point, he may have said no later, but he came and did this as a session, sing Cadence and Cascade, which is wonderful. At some point during this process there was a suggestion of the return of MacDonald and Giles, that they could actually come back, and Fripp said no, understandably, because it would just happen again. They'd go off touring again and then they would leave again. As it turned out, whoever they got in, they were going to leave anyway for ages. There was another year or two of this stuff, for people leaving still to go. But in which case, if they'd come back, maybe Lake would have heard Tarkus, which he didn't like, and there was all the disagreements about that, and gone back to King Crimson. Maybe, you know, it was so sort of messy at this point. Anything could have happened. But I think in the end, you know, Fripp, MacDonald, Peter Giles, Lake, those people aren't really compatible working together as they grew up. You know, it would never have worked because they're just not like that, are they? And obviously, the '69 band were a disparate group of individuals who ultimately couldn't work together. So, like I said, this is not their best album by any means. A lot of people were very disappointed. It was quite successful. One of the problems with it is that it just repeats the structure of In the Court. It's just the same. As I've said before, I don't think In the Court is quite so definitive as some people think. The first 4 albums are almost kind of prehistory because it's last song where it was found, if you like. So that's one way of looking at it, controversially. And this particular album, of course, is one half of that second album because some of the stuff they were writing, the stuff Ian MacDonald was writing, was taken away to MacDonald and Giles. So we get half an album here and half of what might have been. And I feel that is all it is. It's not like this is Crimson going off in any other direction, it's just that half of it, and it isn't enough. Having said that, you know, the sound is so much better than In the Court. It's recorded really well, which does help it. I think the cover is terrible. I think the cover is horrible. I think it's a terrible piece of art compared to the wonderful artwork. I hate the way the heads are positioned sort of like that. I think it's really crass, and I don't think it's even lower sixth. I think it looks like it's drawn by someone younger than that. It's the 12 archetypes, all representing the 4 elements, and I think, although it's alluded to on this album specifically, I think those first 4 albums are the 4 elements. I mean, lots of people like it. I think Genesis hung it up on the wall while they were recording Trespass. I think that story may have been changed and they've said it was In the Court hanging up, but I think it may have been this actually. That's what I've heard. Track 1 is Peace A Beginning, and this is just a little interlude piece that we keep going back to throughout the album to bring it all together, which is quite nice. I think Peace was actually written during Giles and Fripp, but forget that. It's Lake's voice here, a cappella. You think about it, what if Haskell had done Peace instead of Greg Lake, and it would have sounded very different? What a great singer. I think the Giles and Fripp version was actually for string quartet anyway, so it was completely different. Track 2 is Pictures of a City, including 42 Second at Treadmill, which was called A Man, a City, although it's been rearranged a bit. And there was bits of that came from a track called Trees as well. Another bit of that went to MacDonald and Giles. The lyrics are basically about New York and about the sort of horror of the city, which it suits King Crimson a lot. It's more bombastic than Schizoid Man. You know, I think Metallica would play Pictures of a City, put it that way. The 42 second at treadmill bit and the tightrope bit, it's kind of like a tightrope bit, I think, and it's sort of carefully balancing. And I say Metallica would play the heavy bits, they wouldn't play that bit because it's delicate. It's frantic but delicate. So that's interesting. Track 3 is Cadence and Cascade. This is the song that Greg Lake didn't sing because he'd gone off to ELP. So Gordon Haskell came in to sing this. I think this is probably Gordon Haskell's best contribution to King Crimson. His voice is perfect for this song, and yet supposedly they actually recorded it lower and actually sped it up to bring his voice higher. He could sing very low. I think it is Mel Collins on flute on this. Controversial possibly. It is Mel Collins on flute on this, and that's fantastic, as with Pictures of a City on his sax. Ian MacDonald originally wrote this song, but it was different music. So Peter Sinfield took the lyrics and Ian MacDonald took his version to MacDonald and Giles. Although, actually it's more complicated than that, because I mean there's that little arpeggio. He's on both versions, so there's a bit of a mixture there. Controversially, in the early 90s there was a bit of a thing going on. Gordon Haskell was suing EG or Fripp or whatever because he wasn't getting royalties or whatever it was, and that meant that when the frame by frame box set came out and Fripp was trying to break away from EG and it all fell apart and all that stuff, and DGM was starting, it was just easier to not have Gordon Haskell playing on the stuff because it would mess up the legal proceedings going on. So Adrian Belew re-recorded the vocals on this, which I've not heard. I don't have the 40th anniversary version. I don't know if it's on that. It would be nice to hear that. It would be nice to hear Adrian Belew singing it. It's a bit controversial. It can be very nice to have yourself removed like that. but at the same time I'd like to hear Edge Billy sing it. It is Gordon Haskell's song though, and in that sense, and his approach to it is really nice, really good. Although he actually hated it himself, he didn't know what it was about. I think it's straightforward. It's just about two women. Track 4 is In the Wake of the Poseidon, including Libra's theme. This is just Epitaph 2. This is the one that's about the cover, obviously because it's the title track, about the 12 archetypes, and they're mentioned in the song. Lake's voice is awesome, but this is now Greg Lake as he became. This isn't like Greg Lake on the first album in the 69 band. He's already grown up by this point, which is interesting. So here he sounds like he does on ELP. The song is alright. It doesn't help that it is in the same position and the same as Epitaph, and it is nowhere Epitaph, nowhere near. Track 5 is Peace, a theme again. It's a reprise of Peace, except this time it's the guitar version, so it's just solo guitar. Track 6 is Cat Food. They mined this on Top of the Pops. This is the King Crimson pop song, which was only recently found. The footage, black and white footage, so it wasn't the original footage, but when they syndicate stuff, they make a black and white copy in another country to show there, and that's the version that was found, because obviously the BBC deleted it because they hate everybody. Of course, it was mimed, like everyone, because everybody mimed on Top of the Pops. You watch any of those performances on Top of the Pops, they're all miming. And the little fact I know is that nobody sung live between '73 with The Who and 1980 with Iron Maiden. Nobody sung live on Top of the Pops, even though actually it was illegal against the Musicians Union rules. We all know that mime now. You can watch it now. Everybody's miming, obviously. You watch Deep Purple doing Black Knight, it's hilarious, because Richie Blackmore doesn't know the solo, he's just playing something else. It's amazing how people still don't believe it, even though it's so obvious. Ian MacDonald wrote the main bit of this, and then some other stuff was added by Fripp later. There was a bit of controversy about what he contributed to it, but there was honesty there, and they gave him credit. I mean, a lot of bands wouldn't do that. They just, credits on music albums are often a bit dishonest. It's just who happens to be in the band at the time. So it was very honest of them to give him the credit. That was cool. Obviously, this features Keith Tippett on piano, going mental, which is a bit Marmite, I think. I think I like it, in the sense that it is a King Crimson pop song, so it's not something with any depth. It's just going mental. And it's a cool thing. Actually played live later on, which we'll talk about, obviously, surprisingly. Track 6. Track 7, The Devil's Triangle, which is actually just Mars, but they had to change it. They had to change one note because they couldn't get the rights to use Mars from the Holst estate. Noisy fun. It doesn't have that energy of the Live 69 ones. Can't quite explain why. I mean, there's more to it. There's different sections, a loud bit and a quiet bit, and then there's a bit when you've got the metronome ticking. There's moments where they're going completely mental, and the piano and everything. I think this is the point where two of the people in Keith Tippett's band originally played, who come back later. We'll talk about those. It's strange they didn't use Mantra and Travel Weary Capricorn, like I said, probably because Greg Lake wasn't there to record Travel Weary Capricorn, I think, so they just did more of this. You got the big reprise at the end, like with Kim in the Court, like the false ending, and then it all goes intense, but more. It's alright. It seems to be, it's taking up a lot of the album, and maybe more to do with the fact they haven't got the material than anything else. Some people love it. It's okay. And finally, track 8 is Peace and End. And the idea is we bring it all together, so you've got the vocals and the guitar playing together in unison to end off the album. I think Peace helps a lot with getting the album to fit together, but overall it's a bit of a meh, a bit of a album in the catalogue. See you next week for McDonald's and Childs.